The time the spirits return is, according to custom, the day on which the ghosts of the recently deceased return for a visit to this world. Everything in the house must be arranged the way it was while they were alive, and particularly the old clothes they wore must be put on the bed and their shoes must be put under it so the ghost can return and see them. Around Suzhou, people call this the closing of the eyes. Some would engage a Taoist priest to perform a ceremony in which the spirit would first be called to the bed and then sent away. And this was called welcoming the ghost. The custom in Hanqiang, however, was to set out wine and food in the room of the deceased, after which everyone would leave the house. This was called avoiding the ghost. Some people had even had things stolen while they were out of the house, avoiding the ghost. My landlord was living with me when the time came for Yun's spirit to return, and he left so as to avoid it. Neighbors told me I should set out food and then go away too, but because I was hoping to catch a glimpse of her spirit when it returned, I gave them only vague answers. Chang Yumen, who is from my home county, warned me about this. People have been possessed after toying with the supernatural. You should accept the existence of spirits and not try this. I am staying in the house precisely because I do believe in them, I said. It is dangerous to risk offending a ghost when it returns, for even if your wife's spirit does come home, there will still be a gulf between the dead and the living, so her spirit may not take shape to accept your welcome in any case. All things considered, you should avoid the ghost rather than risk running foul of it. I was, however, beside myself with longing for Yun, and paid him no attention. It is fate that determines life and death, I said firmly. If you are that concerned about me, why not keep me company? I will stand guard outside the door, Chang said. If you see anything strange, I can come in as soon as you shout. I took a lantern and went into the house. I saw to it that everything was arranged the same way as before, but with the sight and sound of Yun gone, I could at first not keep myself from weeping sadly. Yet I was afraid that the tears would blur my vision and keep me from seeing what I wished to see, so I forced them back, opened my eyes, and sat down on the bed to wait. I touched Yun's own clothes and smelled the fragrance of her that still lingered in them. It was more than I could bear, and I felt my heart was breaking. Stupefied, I began to faint away. But then I thought, how could I suddenly fall asleep while waiting for her spirit? I opened my eyes, looked around, and noticed that the glimmering blue flames of the pair of candles on the mat had shrunk to the size of beans. I was frightened and seized with a cold trembling. Rubbing my hands and forehead, I gazed steadily at the candles. As I watched, both their flames gradually lengthened and grew to more than a foot tall, until they scorched the paper pasted over the framework on the ceiling. Just as I was taking advantage of this light to look around, the flames suddenly shrank to their previous size. By now my heart was pounding, and my knees were trembling, and I wanted to call in my guardian. But then I thought of Yun's gentle and impressionable spirit, and feared she might be repelled by having another man in the room. Instead, I just called her name softly and prayed to her. But the room remained silent, and there was nothing to be seen. The candle flames then grew bright again, but did not rise up as before. I went out to tell Yu Men what had happened. He thought me very brave, not realizing that in fact I was merely transported with love the entire time. After I lost Yun, remembering how the poet Lin Ho-ching wrote that the plum tree is my wife and the crane my son, I called myself he who has lost the plum tree.